I'm Suzanne Porath, and I'm in the College of Education, and I want to talk to you about the conference I went to, which was eLearn. So last spring I went to the SITE conference, which is the Society of Information Technology and Teacher Education. It was created by AACE, the American Association for Colleges and Education. It was a really good conference, but it's specifically teacher ed. The eLearn conference, which was this fall, is for cross-disciplinary, all of higher ed. And so I wanted to attend that one because the first one was so good, I wanted to know what this one was. So I attended in October. If you are interested, next year it's going to be in November, and if you want to present something, the call is due on July 8th. AACE is known as the Friendly Organization. They do work really hard to make their conferences very welcoming. They have newcomer welcomes and they have social events throughout the entire conference. And they really go out of their way to make sure that you feel part of that community. So it's a big enough conference that you're not going to be bored, but it's not too big that you're traipsing from one hotel to another or across a convention center, which is really nice. So I'm going to specifically talk about one thing that I learned within this. There was a whole lot, but one thing I'm going to talk about is what motivates tech variety. So this came out of one of the keynotes. Their keynotes that they have were really amazing ones. One of the first keynotes, who talked about Flipgrid? She's still here? There we go. The owner or the founder of Flipgrid out of Minnesota, he was the keynote speaker then. It was really amazing. But this one was an invited panel, What's the Future of Learning? And it had three futurists who were also educators who talked about what education is currently like for informal, outside of the classroom learners. And as you just talked about, kids are learning through YouTube and other various ways, and we're not harnessing that enough in the courses that we're doing. So how outside of schools people are learning and how that is coming into, or what it should be coming into, what we're doing in our online classes. So specifically, Kurt wrote this book called Adding Some Tech Variety, and when I was talking to Laura about this, she said that this is in the Online Essentials course. Which I haven't taken yet, so I didn't know that. But now I guess I have to kind of take the course. So it's a really good book. It is free. It's downloadable. It's also available in Chinese, which I think is really cool because we do have a lot of international instructors. I don't think they're going to be doing any other ones. But it's some 300 pages, but it is 100 strategies of how to engage your online learners. So first of all, he talks about his R2D2 framework for designing activities on online courses. And it's not saying you have to do all of these things, but when you think about what you want students to do with content, you want them to get the content somehow. They're reading or they're watching a video. Think about their own learning from that content, displaying it to others, and then doing something with it. Now, not everything is going to do this entire cycle. But throughout the semester-long or the 6-week-long course, students should be engaging in these various things, getting some kind of input, thinking about it, displaying it, and then doing something with it. So how would you do that? Well, the other thing he talks about is how do we motivate learners? And he did a very cutesy acrostic, tech variety. And these are the things that we've been talking about here in many different ways. That we need to set up a tone where people feel comfortable and get them involved and curious about it, but then the content itself has to be engaging enough that make them want to go forward. Because we do have some students that will just do whatever you tell them to because they want to get that A, but if we really want learning to happen, it has to be deeper than that. So he has this cute acrostic with the 10 areas, and then the book itself is 10 chapters with 10 different activities under each one of these. Now the cool thing is, this also maps onto what we've also been talking about, the Garrison's Community of Inquiry framework that talks about social presence, which is creating that sense of community, cognitive presence, which is how students are digging into content and making use of it, and then teaching presence, how do we make ourselves available to our students. So when you think about these 10 things, the first parts are really the social part, the middle part is the cognitive, and then the last part is a lot of times the teaching presence, our evaluation of what's going on there. So there's a lot of information in this. I would strongly encourage you that you download the book. There is a lot to read. There's lots of different examples of how each of these things work, how you might adapt them. And then just think through your course, first of all, thinking about these things. Are you having students do all 4 of these things throughout your course? How are you looking at each one of these things? And then could the various assignments, could you change something that you're doing very traditionally? Could you change it in a way that would make it more engaging in some way? So one of the ones that I'm going to try this semester from the book is one of the introductions. They give an example of 8 nouns. And so students introduce themselves just using 8 nouns. And so they have to kind of name their identities for each other. But one of the things he talks about in the book is, because it was such a visual thing, and I'm going to use Flipgrid because I love Flipgrid and I use it all the time, I'm going to have them hold up the card and talk about what that role is, because that's going to create connections throughout the course. And people will remember, oh, you are this person that said you were this, and make those connections. And so it'll be a visual way for them to create that community. Thank you.